You're actually live streaming on Facebook as well. And I'm going to bring my guest in a little bit right there. And speaking of guests, I have two great guests with me. The first half of the show was great with Mark McKnight and Stephanie Crow joining me. And now I've got Randy Wharton with Wild Trails to join me, which Wild Trails is very centric to our outdoor community. And he has a guest with him that I'm going to let him introduce.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Cindy. It's been great coming back to. So I got Tim Larimore here, and I'll kind of let him talk about what he does with Baylor. But I was introduced to Tim, who last I checked, he's still president of the North Chickamauga Creek Conservancy. And we've got a great partnership with them and just doing a whole bunch of stuff that we'll talk about today. But he's also been very instrumental in getting kids out. He works with the Walkabout program that I'd like to have him kind of talk about, and getting kids out, working on trails, and helping educate the youngins. So you could talk a little bit more about that. That'd be awesome.
I love that. Educate the youngins. And that's what, I mean, it was a great first half of the show talking about getting people connected outside, but what better way to do that than to catch them young so that if they do get away from it, they miss it. They know what it's like to benefit from the great outdoor environment, and especially the great outdoor environment we have here in our area. So first of all, Tim, do tell us what is your official role with Baylor?
At Baylor, I'm an English teacher first and foremost, and then I also work with the Walkabout program. We spend just about every weekend getting students out to someplace locally or in the Southeast, kayaking, climbing, bouldering, rappelling, caving, backpacking. We do just about everything that's available for us. And we also have an afternoon program. After school, we go trail running. We enjoy the creeks and the cliffs and everything else that's in this area. And we're blessed to have a space where that's possible.
That is absolutely awesome. So how long has that program gone on?
The program began in 1976. We had a very visionary headmaster who set up a senior trip that took us down to the Chattanooga River on the Georgia-South Carolina border for 8 days of activity. And that became the cornerstone for Walkabout. And the idea is that we educate students in a lot of ways at Baylor, but a lot of times the most important ways we can get them educated is in our natural spaces. And that grew into the Walkabout program, and it has expanded. We go internationally. We go to Panama. We go to India. We go up to Maine. We do a lot of different things nationally, internationally. But I think some of the best stuff that we do is exposing our students to the value that is right out their back door.
The name Walkabout, that there's a book, Walkabout, that had a significant impact in my life because I was traveling. And I had met a friend at a hotel lobby, and we were kind of crossing ways as we were traveling. And she said, "I just finished this book. You want to take it with you?" And it was Walkabout. And I didn't know, trying to head back to West Texas, that it was like just torrential weather. And I was stuck on a tarmac like all day long. And so I read that whole book in one day. And it was so awesome. And that is such a perfect name for something like that, because just like we were talking about in the first half of the show, getting outside and getting these experiences, it's not just physical help, it's spiritual help, it is physical help, it's cognitive help. It's just so beneficial to get in touch with the outdoors. So that is really, I love hearing that is going on, and we want to encourage other activity like that. Now, Randy, briefly introduce people to, I have to remember not to expect everybody to know what everything is, but tell them briefly about Wild Trails. And there's a lot to Wild Trails, I know, but give the
Reader's Digest version. So it's my wife and I started when we moved here. Two things we saw right off the bat: there wasn't a whole lot of trail races. We were very passionate about trail racing, especially long distance stuff. And at that time, there was only I think Stump Jump was in its second or third year, which was a 50K and a 10-mile race that Rock Creek was putting on. And then they also had River Gorge Race, which is a 10-miler. So those were really the only two trail races in town. And so that was one piece. And the other piece that was probably even more instrumental was there just didn't seem to be anybody out doing trail maintenance. And there was no trail groups. There was one group that one guy started. It was just a bunch of his friends would go out like every other Wednesday for group runs. So we just started Wild Trails. Original name was the Wilderness Trail Running Association. So we sort of rebranded a few years later. And it was just a hobby for us, for a lot of years. Actually, I'm doing it full time now, but have been for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. And, I left my job in corporate America and half my salary, and you couldn't pay me to go back. I got the greatest job in the world now, but it's been really rewarding just to see how, not just trail running, but we're into hiking now. We put on paddleboard races, but then all the money that we raise goes back to the community. So it goes back to trail maintenance, trail building. We're building the next 12 miles of the Cumberland Trail, really closely connected with the North Chickamauga Creek Conservancy guys, because that's where the trail goes, up North Chick. But we started this 200-mile club, which is basically a motivational program to kind of get people off the couch. There's 14 different activities in it, and you can use anything you can. It just, hopefully that'll continue to grow. Really excited about that. We have a Sawyer program, which is basically chainsaw expertise, which is a big problem. A lot of people go out there, they think they know how to use a chainsaw, yes. But a lot of people, most of the people that I know are good with chainsaws are not very good sawyers. So
I survived Hurricane Ike in Houston, Texas, back in, what was that, 2009, I think. And there was just all kinds of craziness going on because everybody went to buy a chainsaw and they were just ripping up trees left and right. Yeah. And like, you go into chainsaws like crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting because now we've got all of the land conservancies kind of calling us we've got 22 sawyers in the program now that it's a lot better because we've got the expertise, we've got the experience, we've got the tools, and we're safe about it. And the guys in the program, and one gal, they need the experience. So it's great for, like the national park calls us up and say, hey, we've got a big project. Can you come clear it out? And we do it the next day. So those kind of things we're pretty excited about. And we're going to broaden out. We're going to do a lot more non-race related stuff. We're going to start this thing called the Wild. We partnered up with the Make-A-Wish Foundation
yes.
For the Trailblaze Challenge, where they raised a ton of money for Make-A-Wish. But a lot of people doing that challenge and say, well, what's next? I mean, I want to keep things going. So we're going to do the Wild Trailblazers hiking group and start do a lot more more epic hikes out of that, and hopefully get more kids involved and get more people off the couch, because I've always talked about 100 times that you want to start a fitness program, do it out in nature, because it's also mental health as well.
Exactly. It just contributes. It's just being outside is great. It just getting the oxygen, but then you add activity to that, and there's just tons of benefits. So that is a lot what I want to use this platform for, is to spotlight the different events. And we'll get organized about that at some point. So there's always events to announce. But what is the next upcoming event with Wild Trails?
Well, as it turns out, so North Chickamauga Creek. Actually, why don't you explain kind of the history of the events, because it's a partnership with North Chick.
That's what I was going to ask, is how do y'all work together?
Well, we work together in a lot of ways. Probably the best way was that last week for Martin Luther King Day, I was able to send about 2 emails and 2 text messages to Randy, and all of a sudden we've got 12 students out on the trail, building new trail, gaining an appreciation for what it means to build trail, recognizing what that effort takes. And Randy makes it so easy, and I really appreciate the access he provides for our students. But the event we have coming up that is the Flipper Bend race, which we have done on our own as North Chickamauga Creek Conservancy for the past 2 or 3 years. And it's been about a 9-mile trail race, takes you out to the great overlook on the south side of North Chickamauga Creek Gorge. But we are so excited that this year Randy's going to take on the race, because he's going to it's going to be a 5-miler and a half marathon. And he's going to leave to us the responsibility of celebrating afterward with our contestants and our friends. And so we were going to put that out both on the Wild Trails website and on North Chickamauga Creek's Facebook. We hope people will come out and enjoy what is an underused, I think, section of the gorge. It's a beautiful section.
That's what I was going to ask you. So explain that part of the gorge again. It's
it's called Flipper's Bend area.
I've not heard of it. I'm not familiar.
So if you just look at the topographic of Signal Mountain, it's on the north end, and it really drops off rather severely into North Chickamauga Creek. And so it's that whole point out there. Boston Branch is the name of a housing development that's out there that's that a lot of people know about, but there's a lot more trails out there than most people are aware of. And it's just as Tim said, it's just an absolutely beautiful place. Some of the most stunning views of the gorge anywhere. So it's definitely well worth it. A lot of people that live up on Signal don't know about Flippers Bend, and
Wow.
it's kind of one of those places that there's been a lot of ATVs and a lot of motorcycles out there over decades, and who knows, a long time. And it's starting to be utilized a lot more for mountain bikes and hiking and running than ever before. And I think it's getting discovered, but still, I mean, I go out there most beautiful, Saturday afternoons, and I'm by myself all day. So there's not many people.
And to a certain extent, one of the reasons people probably don't go out there and use it as much as it could be used is that we need to work on the signage. And that's one thing. Last Saturday, the Conservancy had our meeting, and that's one of our goals for 2018 is to make sure that someone driving in from anywhere around can show up at the parking lot, look at the map, and trust that we've got the signage out there, and we've got the trails marked well enough that people can go out there. I've talked to a few people who've been out there 3 or 4 times and haven't gotten to the overlook, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to dedicate a lot of our time to that.
Because just like being on Signal, the trail is a signal point. I've been on that trail several times, and I'm still not totally comfortable up there by myself. But I'm always with people that know it real well, and we always run into somebody that's lost. So that is a key point, signage on the trails. But that is a key point why joining these groups, this makes it easier, because that's for me. I'm not going to go a first time by myself. Even with good signage, I'm not going to trust my ability to follow that properly. So it's that's what's great about connecting people with as many groups, as many walks, as many activities as you can. So you can go out there and learn about these trails with people that know them a lot better.
The other cool thing about it is it's a hike too. I mean, we have to have a bit of a cutoff time for the half marathon, but if you're just a slow walker, come out and do the 5 miler. So it's a great place. Another thing that's really cool about living in this high tech world that we live in, there's an app. There's a bunch of apps out there that can help you not get lost. But we've discovered one called View Ranger, and it was invented by a European group of forest rangers that needed a tool to be able to communicate with each other and look on the trails operation. So that's kind of where it's called View Ranger.
View Ranger.
And Wild Trails is a development partner now with View Ranger. So we are putting all of the key maps and all the races that we do, everything is on that. So you can load that free app on your phone, pull up one of these maps, and it basically, just like Google Maps, it takes you to the trailhead without getting lost. And then once you push the start button, you're following this trail, and it's even got an alarm on it, so that if you get off the trail you're supposed to be on, it'll alert you with an alarm. So
oh my gosh,
you really,
I love this.
And it's a cool thing about doing all these races that we have and events, says we can put these events out there, so you can go out and run this Flippers Bend half marathon or 5 mile anytime you want, and you won't get lost. So people that are training for these races, it's a real benefit to have technology on your side. I mean, I'm not a big fan of bringing your phone out getting out in the woods at the same time, but this is a perfect opportunity to get out there
to bring it as a safety measure,
lost.
right?
Absolutely.
It is one thing,
a lot
but you don't.
Being in the woods now.
Exactly, that's one thing. But you want to tune out, to tune out of the technology, and I forget how Mark said it, but to get people to just really disconnect and get out there and benefit from that revival of sorts of being outdoors. And I love this. I love this collaboration. And I know that like you that's why I've been mainly working with you. You're kind of centric to everything because your focus is the trails. And if Tim, if you're taking your group kayaking, if you're taking them rock climbing, if you're taking them to hit the trails, whatever you're doing, there's trails involved. So that's what I love about Wild Trails and working with Randy, is because that can connect me to so many more people and create and just help facilitate the collaboration that much better.
But I think that one of the great things is that Randy alerts us all to the fact that he is here because how many trailheads?
Well, there's 54 trailheads in Chattanooga within 25 minutes. And I've done quite a bit of research in the United States. And then the nearest town that's closest to that is Ashland, Oregon. Ashland, Oregon's got somewhere in the 20s.
Now, when you say trailhead,
so it's really 54 kind of trail areas. I mean, if you think about Flipper's Bend, there's I don't know how many miles of trails are up there, but there's one. It's one area.
That's
one
a whole maze of trails in itself.
Yeah. So
when
and
we've got 54 of these mazes of trails.
And the trailhead is a place you can drive your car to and park and get on a trail. So 54 separate trailheads, and that's probably conservative. There's going to be more because I didn't add everything that's out at the National Battlefield, and you think about everything that's up on Signal Mountain where there's a little pull off in the trail. I don't really count all of those. So
official trailheads.
We without question we are Trail City, USA. There's nobody that can come close to us. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, and I think there might be 12 or 15 trailheads in Boulder, Colorado.
Well, it's no wonder that Chattanooga was featured in Outside Magazine twice.
Yeah.
City ever.
Best outdoor city in the world.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's just no surprise. It is. I mean, it's what brought me. It's what we were traveling when I got introduced to Chattanooga, and of course, we had hang gliding on our radar already. So, of course, hang gliding is. Chattanooga is a hang gliding mecca. There are more hang gliding students that graduate from the flight park over at Lookout than any other school in the country. We're including California or anywhere, where the ridge lift and so forth.
Probably better, isn't it?
I love Sequatchie. That's where I learned to fly, and it's beautiful there. They have paragliding, and there's a emerging paragliding school over there. I'm sure it's at the top of I don't know the exact statistics there, but I'm sure it's got. I forget that I'm going to have those guys on, but I'm sure that they're putting out a numerous amount of students as well.
And to reiterate Randy's point, if we have a lot of people who come into Chattanooga and ask about Baylor Walkabout and how we do what we do, and they come to the realization that it's very difficult to do what we do anywhere else, because with those trailheads, these creeks, these cliffs, these boulders downtown, we can offer students a variety where an entire season they don't see the same thing twice, or maybe they see it a couple of times and get to be expert on it, but there's such a variety of places within this town that are available. And that's thanks in large part to the kind of work that Randy does to make new trailheads and build new trail.
Yes.
One thing I'd like to talk about before we leave, and that is events. I mean, the biggest kind of fun event outdoors that North Chickamauga Creek does is the chick stock. And so I was hoping Tim might talk about that, and that's going to lead into another event that we're going to do. We haven't worked out the details, but it's going to be probably a running and paddling event during Chickstock.
I'm not sure how much time we have because the clocks weren't exactly right on the first half, but I think we've got plenty of time to delve into to something else like that. What is this event?
Chickstock has been going on. We've revived it in the last few years. It's an opportunity for us to celebrate a lot of the conservation efforts of a wide variety of organizations in Chattanooga. It takes place at Greenway Farms, one of our best spots, City Park in Chattanooga. Great place to spend an afternoon. This year it'll be on September 22nd. We bring out bands, we bring out food vendors, we bring out friends like Randy, and it's an opportunity just to come out and bring your dog and enjoy the space and have a good time, and then talk about what we've been working on for that year. We tend to at the Conservancy try to get most of our events done by that point at the end of the summer, so we can start telling people what we've been up to. And this year, we're very excited that Randy's going to add in a little bit of a race.
I was going to ask. So, what is the activity around? There's got to be some kind of activity tied into this.
There's some.
We all love a fun party, of course.
There's some great runs. There's great trail opportunities. So we're going to have a trail race, no doubt. But we want to throw in a paddle race as well. North Chickamauga Creek is not something where you can put a whole bunch of people in the water at the same time. So it'll have to be some kind of a time trial downriver.
Oh, that'll be fun with eliminations and bring them back.
I think it'll be a run and then a paddle and then you run back, and then we'll work out the logistics of getting the boards and the boats and everything back. So it's going to be kind of a logistics nightmare for us to work it out, but I've got some good ideas. I think it'll be definitely something you want to put on the radar for sure.
So chick stock is Chickamauga stock is what it's for, because you have to be careful that people are thinking it's specifically for chicks. You get that impression a little bit. Yeah, I know, because I have to do this like chicken salad chick. No, guys eat there too. No, that because that's the first thing I was like, chick. Okay, I get it. Chickamauga stock, chick stock. I like it. And so that it'll be
guys are welcome.
Yeah, and I haven't been out to Greenway. I mean, I spent single mom years here in the early 2000s, and me and my kids spent so much time over at Greenway Farms. And I haven't been back over there. And every time my son visits me, I'm like, we need to, and that's one of the first things he said, we need to go to Greenway. We don't make it, but we did make it to Ocoee last time he was here, which just really floored him. But that is just one of the best areas. That's a perfect place to have an event like that as well.
It's also a great place for a paddle. You know, a lot of people don't know that you can put in on the upper put in by the dog park, and you can paddle about 2 miles around the peninsula. Randy helped us clear that out last July. We got out there with some chainsaws and made sure that you can get a canoe or kayak through there, and you can take out and walk back to your car. So you can paddle about 2 miles, mile and a half, 2 miles, and then walk, 500 yards back to your car and run shuttle. That's a great day.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That is awesome. I didn't think because you're going around the peninsula and coming back to where you started. Yeah, oh, that's precisely. Perfect.
So that's actually another fairly new thing with Wild Trails. We're committed. There's 77 miles of flatwater creeks that we've identified around Chattanooga, North, South, and West Chickamauga Creek and Chattanooga Creek, that need maintenance. Lookout Creek as well. And there's an organization back in the 40s called the Water Scouts. And so it's like the Boy Scouts, and they had Lookout Creek cleared from Trenton to downtown. So you could paddle from Trenton to downtown Chattanooga, 20 some miles, and they kept it clear. And so our goal is to open that back up so we can have more flatwater paddling, and much of it's needed. It's a hard game though. There's, you get a big tree down the water. It takes a lot of tools, and operating a chainsaw in the water is
that's why
not
collaboration
trivial,
works. The more people we bring on board, the more that we'll be able to accomplish that task. Exactly. So that's what I love about that. And that's how that's how I can contribute. I want to help with, Nooga Radio is they get that vision. Nooga Radio is awesome. They really do care about what Chattanooga cares about. That's how they look at it. And I'll never forget when I presented this idea to them, the owner of the station, his eyes lit up and he's like, I wanted to do that for Chattanooga. He said, but I didn't have the person to do it. And it's me. And then when I started getting out there networking around and I got the feedback, well, it takes someone you can't just have anybody, put together a platform like this. It's got to be authentic. It's got to be somebody that really gets it and cares so that you attract all the ones that get it and care. And that's what's happening. Yeah. And so I just really, it's awesome that Nooga Radio is bringing this platform back and the service that it's going to be to Chattanooga.
Can I announce the fundraiser? We haven't really come up with details yet, but
so give us the highlights. You'll be back with details.
The problem with the outdoor show is
cut you
funding.
off. I know we're getting close.
So real quick, so it's we just need a sponsor. So if there's anybody out there with a sponsorship, it is well worth it. It is really not that expensive. So we have partnered up with hopefully the mountain bikers, Sorba, the Rock Climbers, the Southeastern Climbers Coalition.
Yes.
And there's a kind of an informal paddle group as well. So our goal is to put together a little pint night and try to raise, $1,500, $2,000 so we could get this thing off the ground funded for at least a couple months. So, stay tuned. We're definitely going to have all the details probably within the next week or two.
Yes. And you can always, regardless of who's on my show, you can always catch me at Cindy@cindyschoice.com. Cindy@cindyschoice.com. And how do people connect with Wild Trails?
So wildtrails.org is the best way to connect. We have all of our events there. I mean, there's a lot of social outreach that we do, all with all the trail building and trail maintenance and the youth development and the 200-mile club, and everything's all in one spot.
Now, Tim, do your students, do they participate in the 200-mile club?
WBLZ HD4 Ottawa.
Oh, well, hey, you'll have to tune back in for the answer to that question.
Digital
Thanks,
FM
guys.
95.3.
Looks like that's a wrap. Thank you.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Grasshopper.
I'm Gary Nunn, Washington working late, eyeing a midnight deadline for a government shutdown as the Senate works on a funding bill. Democratic leader Chuck